So we had one customer here that has a custom stop loss. So he has a bunch of custom trailing rules here. So I'm just going to make a bunch of blank ones. He's got a bunch of custom trailing rules, and the actions are all set slightly different. So as you know, as more profit is made, he's ratcheting up. He's tightening the stop loss distance. He's got about six or so rules here, and what he requested is the ability to have the stop loss name update automatically. So instead of having the stop loss name locked at negative 1.5 ATRs, actually I think in his example he had something like, I think he was starting at like 8 ATRs with, right? So the stop loss name mentioned 8 ATRs, but as more profit is ratcheted up, the ATRs would tighten. Like it would go down to 7 ATRs and then 6 ATRs and 5 ATRs. And he was hoping there'd be a way to change the stop loss name in real time as profit was as the stop loss was tightening up, as profit was being made. So and so changing the stop loss name or changing the name of your order in real time is not possible. So there's two reasons for that. The main reason is NinjaTrader doesn't allow you to change the name of the order once it's been submitted. So that's the first and foremost. But secondly, for debugging purposes, it would be very confusing if your order names were changing throughout the life of the trade. All right, so once you have a name, you really want it to stay placed. For example, let me build a more practical example here. If you have 4 different stop losses, you have 4 different orders, and they could all have different trailing rules, right? So like order B could be a little more liberal with its trading orders, and order C, the stop loss for order set C, I'm just removing some trailing rules, but the trailing rules could be completely different between B and C and D. So, as you're doing some back testing or doing testing in live market situation, and you're trying to, understand how your stop losses are moving, as you're debugging your system to make sure you have your trailing rules set up, the way you want them, the way you're expecting your trailing rules to set up, so as you're kind of debugging your system and testing it and seeing how it works, you would need your 4 different stop losses to all have a different name, and you would need that name to never change, so that as you're looking through the log files, you'll be able to match the stop loss name with whatever information is presented to you in the output window. So bottom line is having a stop loss order name changing constantly would make it very difficult to kind of debug a more complex system. All right, so there's kind of the 2 reasons why your order names don't change, your order names can't change, first of all, and then secondly, that's why your order names would not change. So okay, here's the question, guys. So let's say we got, so let's say we took a long trade on this bar, and let's see, this bar is, so basically Roland wants the profit target to be sized according to the bar size, right? So we would take the length of the bar and use the ATR to get a multiplier distance based on the size of the bar. So if this is our entry bar, we want to measure the length of that bar and then apply an ATR, well, basically apply a multiplier to the length of the bar. And so we can use the ATR as our multiplier indicator, all right, to do the math for us. So let's see here. So this, let's see, this, so this is it's a 10 tick bar. Perfect. Well, that makes the math easy for us. Nice. So this is a 10 tick bar. Oh wait, no, sorry, no. This is a 9 tick bar. All right, well, okay, let's just cheat a little bit. Let's say this bar was a 10 tick bar, just so we can keep the math easy for us. So if the entry bar was on a 10 tick bar, then we want to take the length of the bar and set our profit target to 1.5 times the length of the bar. So let's see here. The stop loss is going to be, let's see, one tick below the low of the bar, and then the profit target would be somewhere way up. The profit target would be 1.5 times the length of the bar. So it would be up here at 54. So there we go. So the profit target would be one tick below the bar or one tick above the bar, and then the profit target would be 1.5 times the length of the bar. So that's what the question's getting at. At least I think it is. Roland, if you could confirm, that'd be great. I understand your question there. And so let's get this started here. So the profit target, I guess let's use the preset ATR there. We'll start off with that. That'll get us started. And then let's go into the initial placement here. And you can see here, so the initial placement is based off of the entry price. And if you needed to, let's see, I don't think your question mentions a particular price point that your profit target is measured from, but if you wanted to, you could your starting point for measuring your profit target, you could say start it from the high of the bar if you wanted to, right? So that way you know exactly where your anchor point is that you're measuring from to get your profit target, distance. But we'll just keep it at the entry point. That's basically what most people will use. But if you wanted to, you could use other price points of the bar to do that as well. So, but let's see, down here, down in the offset section, you can see right here's the ATR, and it's using a multiplier or a long factor of 2. We're using a factor of 2, so that's a multiplier. All right, so what's wanted is a 1.5 multiplier, and then to get it measured, okay, let's see, you know what? Yeah, so here's the key. Shoot, so the ATR is going to change as every new bar is built. As every new, oh, never mind. That's right. I'm thinking of a bloodhound. Yeah, of a bloodhound situation, but Yeah, BlackBird, yeah, your profit target's not going to move. So, all right, yeah, so we can do this. So we need to set the ATR to a 1 period. So right now, you can see the ATR is defaulting to a 20 period. So let's go into the indicator settings. All right, so we can see we're in the indicator settings window here. And so we need to use a 1 period ATR. So a 1 period ATR gives us the length of the bar, right? And then we can take the length of the bar and multiply it by 1.5 times. So there we go. So, right, so our profit target will be from the entry price times 1.5 the ATR, and it's an ATR of 1. So we can see here that ATR period needs to be changed to a period of 1 so that we're only measuring the length of just the 1 bar, the entry bar there. All right. There. And let's set the stop loss here. So we're going to be basing our stop loss on the bar's high-low prices. So let's use this to start us off with. This will get us in the ballpark there. And then we need to go in here and modify our initial placement settings. So for a long trade, we're going to use the low of the bar. And we're just looking at the 1 bar. So we're going to leave our look back period at what? Right, look back period 1, and we're just using the single value. So we didn't have to change anything here. The only thing we do need to change is that offset. So we're going to, we want it 1 tick below, or negative, right? So we want to subtract 1 tick from the low of the bar. And that'll get us 1 tick below the bar. Or if it's a short trade, right, we have a positive 1 tick. So take the high of the bar plus 1 tick. Right, so for a short trade, we can see here, we've got the high of the bar, and it's a positive tick, so it's going to be plus 1 tick. So there we go. It's just that simple there, Roland. Good, okay, so I have a question here from KB. I'd like to kind of cover the overriding auto trading with manual trading. Yeah, you bet. Okay. So I'm just going to set up a very simple auto trader. So I've just got this very, very simplistic bloodhound template here that I just call crossover test. It's just got a bunch of simple signals here. And so we'll look at, let's see, we'll just look at the price inflection there. We'll use that logic template. So price inflection, the price inflection signal is basically whenever price changes direction, right? So if price reverses up, it'll generate an up signal. If price reverses down, it'll generate a short signal. And wrong one. And let me set my entry signals to price inflection. All right, so just some very basic signals there, just so I can get an auto trader working. And then let me set up some profit targets here. I'll set this up so that my orders don't get hit all that quickly. All right, something set up there real quick. Let's turn on the auto trading buttons, right? So if you want to set up an auto trader, you have to have your auto trader button enabled. And let's see, now we just need to, let's see, let me move the market up. All right, I'm working with minute bars here, so I'm just going to have to wait for this next bar to close. Okay, great, there we go. So we got an order on here. And so, right, so there's an example of the auto trader. Now, as far as, what converting to discretionary trading, discretionary trading basically just means that you can go in here And so if you let your trade signals automatically place you into a trade, right? Then once you're in a trade, you can manually take over that trade by moving your profit targets and stop losses around as you see fit. Right, so you can see I can keep moving my profit target up, and if I wanted to, I could manually move my stop loss around like so. Right, some other things you can do is you can see here. So if you do have the order monitor panel turned on, you can see there's some buttons here. So right there, really the only button I can do is the break even button. So I can hit break even. I can see my stop loss moved to break even right there. So I'll move my stop loss back down. So you can see right here is my break even. So I can move my stop loss to break even there. The auto trailing button, that's not going to do anything because in this example I didn't set up any trailing rules. So the auto trailing has no functionality since I didn't set up a trailing stop loss. But if you had your stop loss set up to do some auto trailing, then you can turn the auto trailing on and off. You can also see, so right now the auto trailing is turned on, but if I manually move my stop loss, you see how the button turns off, right? So if you're going to manually manipulate your orders, then that's saying that you want to override any kind of trailing rules that you've set up there, and so the auto trailing will just turn off. All right. Otherwise, if the auto trailing was left on, that your trailing rules would constantly be moving your stop loss around. But since you're manually moving it, the trailing needs to turn off automatically, so it does do that. And then if you want your trailing rules to pick back up, you can just hit the button again, and it'll turn your auto trailing back on again. So, you can also remove. Well, actually, this remove button. We took a little survey a while back, and nobody really uses this remove button. So actually, this remove button is going to go away. It's a redundancy. This remove button is a redundancy. So if I wanted to remove an order, right, I've got the X's right there in the boxes. So you see the X's right there in that box. So NinjaTrader has these little cancel buttons here. So if I wanted to cancel my stop loss, if I wanted to cancel my profit target, I could just hit the X there. So keep in mind that actually removes your whole OCO set. So there's no way to remove just one. Right, so that's actually at the exchange there. And so we just jumped into another trade there. So yeah, now we're in a short trade. Yeah. So remember, when you're dealing with a profit target and a stop loss, they're submitted as an OCO set, which means one cancels other. So if you do cancel one, it does cancel the other. And that's simply because of the exchange rules. So there's nothing we can do about that. Let's see, what else to cover? So I could, so right now BlackBird is set up, as an auto trading system. And if I wanted to, I could start trading discretionarily simply I could turn off my auto trader. And I'll just close this order out. So I could turn off the auto trader, and then I could start using the dynamic planner here to do some discretionary trading. So let's say, I want to take another long trade here. So I can use my dynamic planner. And, right, so the dynamic planner is going to show me where my profit target and stop loss is going to go. And the entry order, since I'm using a market entry order, it's not going to show me my entry order, right? Because you can't manipulate a market entry order. It's just going to go wherever the market's at. So I can go in here and manually adjust where my profit target's going to go, and then execute the order, just like that. And there you go. You can see my profit target went in at 70. And I can move my stop loss around. Let me close that out, and let me change the orders around here. So instead of using a market, switch this over to a limit order. Let's say I want to use a limit order. And I'll place my limit order a few ticks below the close here. And I'll set my stop loss up as just a standard trailing stop loss, just so I get some movement from my stop loss. And all right, we'll call that good. So if I do set my entry order up as a limit order, and let's say I want to take a short trade now. So now you can see my limit order, my entry limit order shows up on the chart here, and I can place that wherever I want, like so. I can move my profit target down here, like so. And I could tighten my stop loss up here, like so. And then execute my order. There we go. So my limit order is waiting to get picked up. And let's see, I'll just pull this down here, and hopefully our limit order is going to get picked up. Here, I'll just cheat a little bit. Let's move the trend up. We'll get this order picked up here. There we go. Great. And I'll move the market down a little bit. And there we go. So we can see my stop loss went in just a few ticks above the high of the market here where I placed it. My profit target is down here where I placed it previously during the dynamic planner. So, and you can see how the auto trailing is turned off. Right, the auto trailing is turned off. That's because I manually manipulated my stop loss and profit target. So I've told BlackBird, I want my orders to go in where I want them to go in, which means you can't follow your trailing rules anymore. So, but if I want to turn on the auto trailing, just turn it back on, and then as price moves down, my stop loss will start trailing. And so just so we can see the stop loss trailing here, I'll move my profit target way out of the way. Let's move it way out of the way here. Hopefully that's enough. I'm not sure what a 2.5 ATR is going to look like. It's probably going to be pretty darn big. So, and keep in mind here, since I moved my profit target, again, that turns off the auto trailing. So because your profit target could have auto trailing rules built into it. So if I want my stop loss to start trailing again, I will have to go turn on the auto trailing. And there we go. We just saw the stop loss did trail there. And I'm not sure how I set my trailing rules up, so I'm not sure if it's going to work when the bar closes or if it's going to work. Yeah, okay, so it's working when I've set my stop loss up so that it works when the bar closes. There we go. The bar just closed and our stop loss ratcheted down a little bit more. Yeah, I think that about covers it as far as mixing and matching, auto trailing with discretionary trailing. I think I've covered it for the most part. So, and then I guess, if you're done with your discretionary trading, then, you can turn the auto trailer back on. So, let me point out, you don't have to turn the auto trading button off to do discretionary trading. So let's close this order out here. So if I wanted to, so right now, BlackBird's going to auto trade on its own because the button here is enabled. And if I want to, I can take a discretionary trade at any point. So I could just, if I want to, I can decide to go long. And let me just move the market up with me. And you can see, right, it just executed a trade there. And it went long. And then let's do this. Let's go short. And when this bar closes, that will generate a short signal. And so you can have BlackBird override your manual trades or not override your manual trades. All right? There's a setting that you can pick and choose how BlackBird will behave. So there we go. So we can see that BlackBird did not override my manual trade there. And let me show you where that setting is. So if we go into order settings window here and we go to options, so if I enable allow auto trailing during a manual position, if I check that on, then BlackBird the auto trading signals, right? So your signals, your auto signals coming in, your trade signals coming in, those trade signals, right? The auto trading will override your manual trading there. So by checking this would now allow BlackBird to override my manual trading here, right? Because I'm allowing the auto trades during a manual trade. So with that checked, let's do this again here. Let's close this position out and let's go long. And let's get that filled. Okay, so I'm in a long position. And if this bar closes down, let me make sure that this bar is going to close down. Right? When this bar closes down, that's going to generate a short signal. And so that short signal will override my manual long trade, my discretionary long trade. All right, come on. Go down, market. I want you to close down. There we go. Boom, there we go. So we just saw that BlackBird closed out my discretionary trade and overrode it with the auto trade signal that it got when the bar closed down. And it placed my limit entry order there. All right, yeah, there. I think that about covers it. Okay, so let me go to the board here. It looks like there's some maybe some questions on this might have come in. So let me just take a look. The simple question here: can you reverse a trade? Can you reverse a trade? And absolutely. Let's set this up. Let me close this out. And I'll set this up so that we're using a market order again. All right, there we go. So market order, so we can just get in there right away. And let's see, it looks like this bar is going to close up here. So let's let this bar close up. And we'll let an auto trade, we'll let BlackBird put us in a long position automatically. There we go. So BlackBird automatically put us in a long position, and if you want to reverse it, we just hit the go short button and bingo, it reversed us just like that, right? And then if I change my mind again and I don't want to be in a short trade anymore, I can just go long, and there we go, and just reverse. So I can reverse it manually. So I can, use my own discretion and use the buttons to reverse the trade manually. Or if you're using BlackBird, to auto trade, then there is an option in here. Enter only when flat. So enter only when flat means that you have to be flat before BlackBird will auto trade. Before BlackBird will enter into a new trade, BlackBird has to be flat. So if you check this, what it does is it prevents reversing. So BlackBird would not be able to automatically reverse its trade if you had the opposite trade signal come in. Right? So if you got if your trade signals put you in a long trade, and then a few bars later a short signal is generated, right? With enter only when flat, when that is checked, then BlackBird will not reverse your position if the opposite trade signal comes in. So, but by default, this is unchecked. So by default, BlackBird will just reverse the trade to match whatever trade signal comes in. Right? So if you have trade signals that are constantly reversing on each other before the trade closes out, then BlackBird will constantly be reversing your position for you automatically. So, but if you don't want BlackBird to reverse the position, if you want to wait until the trade closes out and you go flat, and then BlackBird can place a new trade, then that's what the enter only when flat is for. All right, so the trade has to close out, right? Meaning the profit target or the stop loss has to be hit, putting you flat, and then the next trade signal can be taken by BlackBird. So, and keep in mind, these options here are only for auto trading options. All right, these are auto trading options, so they do not affect the chart trader buttons. Right, these chart trader buttons are always in effect, so that way the trader can, use his own discretion instantly and not have to worry about some settings, blocking the buttons from, doing what you want to do. So, all right, so let's uncheck those and put it back in its default mode. Okay, so there was one question, and Eric is asking, can you delete a stop loss and add a trailing one while in a trade? No, cannot. Change, well, I should say that, let me set up an example here. All right. So let's go, I'll just put us in a short position here. Put us in a short position. Now I'm just gonna stretch these out just to make sure nothing gets hit. So I don't want my orders to get hit while I'm explaining the question here, or the answer. So we're in a live position now. So if you're in a live position here, you can go in here and you can set things up for the next trade. Like if I wanted to, I could add an extra contract, and I can go in here and I can change whatever I want while the trade is going on live. So I can go to a 30 tick profit target if I want. All right, and then click OK. Now, as a safeguard, those new settings are not going to take effect, right? Because that could just wreck your whole day if you go in here and you're like, oh, you know what, the market got really kind of crazy, so I need to increase my stop loss, or I think I can capture more profit. So you go in here and you make some modifications, you click OK, and you may not want that to apply to your current position, right? So therefore, BlackBird doesn't take those new settings and apply them instantaneously. So those new settings I just made, they will get applied on the next trade, not the current active trade. They're not applied to the current active trade, right? And that's simply just a safeguard, right? Because that could really mess up that could really mess up your trading day if you accidentally had forgotten that, So an active trade cannot be modified, or I should say, the trailing rules, your trailing rules, any kind of settings here do not update live to the live trade, or do not update the live trade in real time. All right, and that's just as a safeguard, because you could go in here and just tinker around while you have a live trade going on, and if you forget that modifying anything would modify your trade, that could really ruin things. So once a trade is on, whatever settings whatever the settings were when a trade was executed, those settings are locked in, and you have to wait for the next trade for any new changes to be made here. But of course, you can always go in here and, if you wanted to change things, you can always go in here and move your orders around as you see fit. So, right, then I can turn my auto trailing back on, and my stop loss would start trailing again. So, all right. Let's see. Yeah, I hope that answers your question there, Eric. See, it looks like Frank would like to use the DM indicator in a stop loss. All right. Well, let's close this out. All right. So let me pull up the DM indicator so I can familiarize myself with what we're dealing with. All right, DM indicator. All right, so the DM indicator is a directional movement? Directional movement indicator, right? So it's kind of it's another way of measuring trend. How much of a trend the market is in. And let's see. Let me make these plots a little thicker. And let's see, Frank's interested in the DI plots here. So we have a DI plus and DI minus. Let's get that on the chart. There we go. And you'll notice, so the DM indicator, right, it has its own scaling. So, so the scaling on here does not match price. So I'm not sure how we can use the DM I'm not sure how we can use the DI plots for a stop loss, right? Because if I set my stop loss to one of the DI indicators, right, it's going to place my stop loss at 25, a price of 25, and we can see the YM is at 2,000. So yay, right? Yesterday, I hope you guys saw that. Yesterday, the Dow broke 2,000 yesterday. It's quite the celebration on CNBC. So, right. So if you want to use an indicator to set a stop loss, right? Your indicator, the output of your indicator needs to match whatever the price is that your instrument is trading at. Yeah, so how would we use the DM indicator with the stop loss, so that we're using the DI plus or DI minus plots correctly with the trade direction. Let's see. All right. Well, I guess I could answer that question, but I'm not sure I could actually generate a very functional stop loss unless let's see. Actually, you know what? This 21 and 27. Maybe that would work as a tick offset. I don't know. Maybe the DM indicator is maybe the DM's indicator's output is more of a tick based output. So like maybe this so for the DI minus, draw an arrow here, right? So we got the DI minus, which is at 27. So maybe the DI minus is representing a 27 tick. And let's see. Yes. Okay. So yeah, Frank is saying right that the DM indicator is kind of like an ATR. It's giving you a tick measurement feedback. So all right. Yeah, there we go. You know what? I don't think I've ever looked at the DM indicator in that way, but yeah, I guess it's starting to make sense that the DM indicator is kind of giving you a tick measurement unit. That's what the DM indicator is giving you. All right, so let's go set up a stop loss order here. Market order, and the real key here is setting up our stop loss. So let's, what do we want? All right, so, assuming that the DM indicator is much like an ATR, right, where it's kind of giving you a volatility measurement, we'll use the ATR just to start, just as a starting point. And then we'll go into our initial placement here, and we'll replace the ATR with the DM indicator. All right, let's go find that DM indicator. There we go. DM indicator, I'll just use the default period of 14. And let's see. All right, so let's assume we're going to use the DI plus for a long trade. And we'll use the DI minus for a short trade. Yes, yep. So, for anybody not familiar with the DM indicator, the DI plus plot, right, the DI plus plot, that's the blue line down here, right? And we can see that the market is currently in a downtrend. So the red plot is on top, telling us we're in a downtrend. So the red plot is the DI minus. So we'll use that for a short trade. We'll use the red plot or the DI minus for a short trade. We'll use the blue plot or the plus DI for a long trade. And then if you want, you can add a multiplier to that. But I'm going to just take that multiplier off, and we'll just use a multiplier of just 1, so we're not modifying the indicator's output. Let's see. Yeah, that should do it. All right. So there's our initial placement. And actually, let's see. Let's set our initial placement from the entry price. Yeah, entry price minus the DM indicator there. And let's take this a step further, and we'll get a little more sophisticated. And we'll set up a custom trailing rule here as well. So we can have our stop loss trail based on the DM, or based on the DI plots, right? And all right, so I'm just going to build a simple standard trailing rule here. So that means there's no delay, no trigger. All we have is an action. So we're just going to we're just going to move the stop loss on every tick. We're just going to keep that stop loss moving immediately, as soon as possible. So we're just going to go into actions here. And so our stop loss is going to move based on the last price. So keep in mind, the last price is where the market is trading, right? Where the market's trading right now, that's our last price. So the last price is basically the same thing as the market price, the current market price. And then we just need to build in an offset. And so our offset is going to be exactly the same as what we built previously. So let's go in here, let's put an indicator in. So we'll find the DM indicator again. And again, I'm just going to use a 14 period. Let's select the correct plots, like so. All right, and our long factors are already set to -1 for a long trade, right? So you want to remember, so when you're taking a long trade, your stops are always underneath your trade, right? Stops are always at the bottom. So therefore, you'll always be using a negative number for placing your stop losses for a long trade, right? Because your stop losses are below your entry. So, and if you want to set a fixed tick offset for a stop loss, you're typically going to be using a negative number again to keep your stop loss below the market, or below whatever. So, all right, let's see. Yeah, we got that. Okay, so we have our action set. So we're going to move the stop loss, to the last price minus our DI plot, and then we need to set the repeat up. And so we'll just have this repeat indefinitely. And we could have this repeat on a bar by bar. So that means the stop loss would only move when the bar closes. Or we could have our stop loss move in real time. So we could have our stop loss move on a tick by tick basis. So basically for every tick in profit, our stop loss would move every tick in profit. If we wanted to, we could say, we only want our stop loss to move every 2 ticks in profit. So, right, so the market has to move 2 ticks in profit before the stop loss gets updated, or we could say, only move my stop loss every 5 ticks in profit. So, but I'll just knock it down to 1 there. Keep it simple, or keep it normal. And all right, that does it. And let's see, we got a nice strong downtrend, so let's throw ourselves into a short trade here. And let's see. Oh, okay. Hold on a sec here. I need to just refresh my chart. And let's take a short trade. There we go. And so, let's see, our stop loss should be about 33 tick offset. So 36 plus 33 is 69. There we go. Bingo, we got it. And let's see, since we're dealing with minute bars, it's going to be a little difficult. It's going to be very slow to get our stop loss to start trailing here. But our stop loss will trail based on whatever the DI minus plot is set to. And right now there's no trailing because the market is actually going against us. So let me set the trend down, and we'll put the market into a downtrend. so we can start watching that trailing, that stop loss start ratcheting down, start trailing. All right, so while we're waiting for price to come down, let's see, I think some other questions have come in here. Let's see, so Frank is asking, well, Frank was kind of wondering if maybe the opposite DI plot should be used. Yeah, I mean, I have no idea, Frank. And I wouldn't provide any advice on what plots to use. But yeah, if you wanted to reverse the plots there, we can definitely do that. So we have to do it in 2 spots here. So we'll go into our initial placement. In the orders tab, we'll go into the initial placement. And we can go back into the indicator, right there, go back into the indicator. And we can simply reverse the plots there, if that's what we want to do. Just like so. All right, that's done. And there we go. Hopefully you guys can see the stop loss is ratcheting down. All right, and then also I'll need to go into the trailing actions and modify my action here. So, right, go into here and open up the indicator and reverse my plots in there as well. All right, so I reversed the DM plots in 2 locations. One in my trailing roll, and the other was in my initial placement. And there we go, just like that. So you notice how the stop loss isn't moving, right? And that's because our minus DI plot jumped up to 38. So we'll need to get a 38 tick difference now between the stop loss and where price is. So as the DI plot climbs higher and higher, that's going to mean the stop loss is going to get wider and wider. So, Frank was wondering if maybe you should use the DI plus for a short trade. And yeah, it looks like using the DI plus would generate a tighter and tighter stop loss if you did that. Yeah, so it looks like for a short trade, if we use the DI minus, that's going to generate a wider and wider stop loss as our trend gets stronger and stronger. But as the trend gets stronger, it looks like the DI plus would generate a tighter and tighter stop loss. So, right, so there you go. It just depends on how you want that stop loss managed. All right, thank you guys, and we'll see you later. All right, have a good one. Bye-bye.